which team is the most overanalyzed?
Well, I would say it's the Cowboys. I think it's appropriate that they're at the top of that list. But if you don't mind, Skip, I'd like to digress and talk about Kentucky basketball, which is obviously number one in college basketball in terms of being analyzed. John Calipari needs to stop whining, and he needs to get over it because he's the instigator of all of this. Now, I say that, and I have a right to say that because for those of you who out there who don't know, I happen to love John Calipari. We happen to go back more than 20 years. I covered Temple basketball with John Chaney when John Calipari was at UMass, when he had Mike Williams and Lou Rowe and Marcus Camby and those boys. And at that time, playing in the Atlantic 10 Conference, this man was salivating for attention. You understand?
Wait, when John wanted to strangle him one day?
Yes. Well, I came the year after that. I came the year after that, and Aaron McKee had to stop him. Eddie Jones was still. These are my boys now. You understand? I love John Calipari, but I also know him. He's the ultimate salesman. Stop whining. You're 17-5 this year. You're not your 38-2 when you won the national championship. You're not 35-3 or, all of this other stuff. You'll still be in the NCAA tournament. You'll be all right. We all know that he's a great coach and he's accomplished great things. But when you are Kentucky, and the John Walls of the world, the DeMarcus Cousins of the world are guys that are in your staple. This dude right here, Julius Randle, who's a stud, and you were at Memphis. Why is Derrick Rose coming to Memphis? He came to Memphis because John Calipari is there. So just get over it. It's life. Deal with it, suck it up. This man promotes his books. He's the ultimate salesman. He promotes everything, and he's usually doing it with pessimism. I mean, this guy starts off when they're in a position to win a national title, and John Calipari will come out and tell you from day one, oh, we're awful, we stink. We don't do this right, we don't do this right, we don't do that right. And then when people talk about it and write about it, you start whining. Stop it, okay? I love you, but stop. Now, back to the Cowboys. These boys are obviously overanalyzed because the Dallas Cowboys are a model of ineptitude and dysfunctionality. They are a team that hypes and markets itself because of its owner, Jerry Jones, to no end, yet rarely, if ever, pay off any dividends for all the hype. As a result, the star on the helmets, the cheerleaders, the billion-dollar playpen, the history of championships, when Jerry Jones first got there with Jimmy Johnson, and before that, and even after Jimmy Johnson left, bottom line is they've been usurped to some degree by an alarming level of ineptitude over the last 17 years where one playoff victory has been produced. So ultimately, people are going to beg. Why is that? Why are they talked about so much? Why are they so hyped? Why do they always have nationally televised games? Why are they America's team? Why is it from city to city you either find people who love them or hate them? People are going to ask because the intrigue breeds from their deficiencies and their losing tendencies. If they won more, they'd actually be boring. That's the thing. That's the irony about the Dallas Cowboys. They'd actually be less interesting and less intriguing if they won more. The intrigue is from the fact that they lose. Because in America, we are all fascinated by accidents that seem imminent. When we know the car, it's like that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro. When you know when the man tells you the car's about to crash, and then it ends up happening, you're fascinated by that. You're fascinated about it. Now, if there was no crash, then it's no big deal. If you're sitting there and you end up speaking languages and you looking all suave and successful and it's nobody, all right, yeah, so what? But when there's a crash landing that is imminent, that always intrigues people, especially in America. And that is why the Dallas Cowboys want you. Notice that the Kentucky Wildcats are on that. Well, they win. Notice how Alabama was on there. They win. Notice how the Heat, even though they're on the list, they're number 2 instead of number 1. Because they win. Who was number 3? Who was number 3 on that list?
New York Yankees.
New York Yankees. They win. But the Cowboys are number 1. Because they lose. That's the intrigue.
You are so wrong about that.
Whatever.
Oh, boy.
You know I'm right.
And here's the great irony of having this conversation. I will tell you that last night I wrote a column that, God willing, will be posted tomorrow on ESPN.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you are prominent in the column. And it's about why...
You mentioned me by name?
Many times. About 5 times.
You need graphs.
All right.
Yes. Graphs. He wants graphs.
I know.
It's the
graphs. You got big graphs.
It's the PH, not the V, right? It's Stephen A.
I spelled it wrong, but even if I hadn't, the golden rule is as long as they even get your name in,
all right.
you're okay.
Stephen Naismith up in there, too?
Yes, it is.
All right.
And
way to go.
This is all about how the Cowboys became America's team. It's why they were the most overanalyzed team in all of sports in the 70s when they were winning, and in the 80s when they weren't winning that much, and in the 90s when they were winning huge, and in the 2000s they have been for going on, what is it, are we 40 years in?
Jeez.
They always have been the most loved and hated and fascinating team in all of sports. From Tom Landry and Tex Schramm up to Jimmy Johnson to Barry Switzer to Jerry Jones being the owner, operator, and basically the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. They're the most interesting team in sports, which is why in this poll, I was surprised they got only 46% of the votes. Honestly, it should have been 75% Dallas Cowboys as most overanalyzed team in all of sports. And just for your benefit, they have just re-released the first book I wrote on the Cowboys, called God's Coach, as an ebook, and I'm going to give you one as a present.
Why? I'm not reading that book on the Cowboys. You're wasting your time.
Okay?
Present.
No, I love you, but I'm not. No, you ain't getting me there.
I'm just giving this away. In the column, I actually ask you to read this book. So I'm going to give it to you.
Skip.
And maybe some night.
It is no reflection on you.
You don't have to admit it publicly. You need to read this book.
Skip, let me tell you something right now. It is no reflection on you. I love you. I'll do almost anything for you. I swear to you, I'm going to step and stomp on the book. I'm going to bury it in the snow. I'm going to kick it around. I'm telling you right now, I won't do it.